All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the raw, unfiltered wisdom from Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And let me tell you, this is not your typical sunny side up management guide. No way. This is a playbook for when everything is on fire. So let's just get right to the core of it. This whole idea, which Horowitz actually learned from his grandfather, is simple but, well, pretty intense. The book isn't really about how to succeed. It's about what you do when that big, beautiful dream of yours turns into a complete and total nightmare. It's about embracing all the messy, painful, unavoidable parts of building something that matters. And yeah, Horowitz has a name for that nightmare period. He calls it the struggle. You know the feeling, right? It's that 3 a.m. stare at the ceiling moment where you're just asking yourself, what was I thinking? Why did I ever start this? His whole argument is that getting through that, well, that's what actually defines a leader. And look, this isn't some academic exercise for him. This was his life. He faced this terrifying reality when his company, LoudCloud, was basically staring into the abyss during the dot-com crash. So what do you even do in that situation? Okay, so here's the crazy part. Instead of panicking, he got brutally logical. First question, if this whole thing goes up in flames, what's the one asset I'd buy back from the wreckage? And the answer was clear. There's software, a thing called opsware. So then the next question becomes, all right, how do we get to that outcome? But, without the whole going bankrupt part. And this led to a move that sounds completely insane, selling off their entire services business. I'm talking all of their revenue. Gone. Just to pivot into a pure software company. And if you want a picture of just how hard the struggle is, this is it. After making that radical bet the company move, Wall Street basically laughed in their face. The stock price for their new company, Opsware, plunged to just 35 cents a share. Think about that. That was less than half the actual cash they had sitting in the bank. The market was saying the company was worth less than zero. Now that is the struggle. So going through that trial by fire forged one of the book's most famous ideas, and it's this. Leadership isn't just one thing. It's not a fixed style. It's how you react to what's happening around you. And this is where he gets into the crucial difference between a peacetime CEO and a wartime CEO. And the difference between the two is just night and day, right? A peacetime CEO, they're playing offense. They have a big lead. They're expanding the market, encouraging creativity. It's all about growth. But a wartime CEO, they're just trying to survive. They're facing a threat that could wipe them out completely. So they have to make these brutal, focused decisions just to make it to the next day. All the nice conventional management rules, yeah, those go right out the window. I mean, talk about a wartime scenario. This is exactly what Horowitz lived through at Netscape. Imagine this. You find out your biggest competitor, Microsoft, is about to drop a product that's 5 times faster than yours. And, oh, by the way, they're giving it away for free with their operating system. That's not a competitor. That's an asteroid heading for your planet. So naturally, everyone's scrambling, looking for some kind of magic fix, right? That one silver bullet that'll save them. But the legendary coach Bill Campbell, he just lays out the hard truth for them. He basically says, look, there are no silver bullets here. There's no magic trick. The only way out is to do the hard, grinding work. You got to fix the real problems one by one. You don't need a silver bullet. You need a ton of lead bullets. Okay, so if being a great leader is all about surviving the struggle and waging these wars, how do you even become that person? How does anyone get good at that? Well, Horowitz's answer is pretty surprising. He says it's not natural. In fact, it's the exact opposite of natural. Yeah, let's dig into this because it's a great analogy. He compares becoming a CEO to learning how to box. Think about it. In boxing, everything you have to learn feels wrong at first. It's a bunch of totally unnatural motions that you have to practice over and over until they become instinct. If you just do what feels natural in a fight, you're going to get knocked out flat. And he says being a CEO is exactly the same. And these so-called unnatural motions are really the core of the job. I mean, just think about our own wiring as people. We're built to want to be liked, to avoid conflict. It's just human nature. But a CEO's job requires you to fight that instinct every single day. You have to fire someone who's loyal but just not cutting it anymore. You have to give your friend feedback that's going to sting. You have to make calls you know are going to upset people. All of these things are essential, and all of them go against the grain of who we are. And here's a perfect, kind of brutal example of why you have to master this. He calls it the law of crappy people. Here's how it works. Say you've got one vice president who's just not very good. Well, guess what? Every single director below them looks up and thinks, hey, I'm definitely better than that person. I should be a VP. And just like that, your standard for performance drops to the absolute lowest bar. So holding that high bar, even when it's super uncomfortable, that's one of those core, unnatural duties of a leader.
So when you put it all together, the struggle, the wartime decisions, mastering those unnatural motions, it all comes back to the title of the book. The main takeaway here is that the hard thing about hard things, well, the hard part isn't the big, exciting dream. It's what you have to do when that dream is crumbling around you.
And here's the thing. Anybody can come up with a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's the fun part. The hard part, the thing there's no manual for, is when you miss that goal. It's laying people off. It's managing your own head when you feel like a complete and utter failure. It's having to stand in front of your team and say, we messed up and you're losing your job because of it. There's no formula for that.
You know, Horowitz admits that during the worst of the dot-com bust, he was deep in that mode, feeling sorry for himself, asking these exact questions. He was looking for an out, an excuse. He wanted someone to tell him it wasn't his fault. But then he happened to see this interview with the football coach Bill Parcells, and it just completely flipped a switch in his head. In the interview, Parcells was talking about complaining to his own mentor, the legendary Raiders owner Al Davis, about all the injuries his team had. And Davis's response was just so simple and so brutal. He just said, just win, baby. And that was the lesson. Nobody cares. Seriously, nobody cares about your excuses, about how unfair the circumstances are, or about your bad luck. As a leader, your one and only job is to find a way to win, period. And that really brings us to the final and maybe most provocative thought in the whole book. The message isn't to just survive the struggle. It's to embrace it. Because that journey, all the sleepless nights, the impossible choices, the gut-wrenching moments, that's not an obstacle on the path. That is the path. It's the fire that forges you into a leader. There is no other way. So the real question isn't about how you can avoid the hard things. It's about how you're going to choose to face them when they